affective assessment. Affective assessment is an assessment based on the student attitudes, interests, and values. For example, the teacher will use the activity that the students can relate and appreciate to the lesson. So this is the Bloom's taxonomy of learning domains. The Bloom's taxonomy was created in 1956 under the leadership of educational psychologist Dr. Benjamin Bloom. According to him, in order to promote the higher form of thinking in education, such as analyzing and evaluating, rather than just remembering the fact or rote learning. The learning takes place in three domains, which is cognitive. Cognitive includes all intellectual behaviors and requires thinking. Psychomotor, it involves acquiring skills that require integration of mental muscular activity. And lastly, the affective. It deals with expression of feelings and acceptance of attitude, opinions, or values. So, that is the three learning domains. So, the affective domain, the affective taxonomy, which describes objectives that reflects underlying emotions, feeling, or values rather than cognitive or thought complexity. So, this taxonomy describes a process by which another person, groups, or society's ideas, beliefs, customs, philosophy, attitudes, and so on are gradually accepted and internalized by different person, group, or society. This process usually begins with a minimal, partial, or incomplete acceptance of an alternative point of view and cumulates with a complete integration of this point of view into an individual's personal belief system. Here's an example of affective domain. An individual who naively believed in early 1985 that the return of Halley's Comet in 1986 would cause the end of life on Earth that may at first have found it difficult even listen to receive or attend to information that indicate that the comet's return would have no significant or lasting effect on life on Earth. Instead, the individual may have ignored such information, attempting instead to convince others on Earth's dome. However, with the passage of time throughout the year and with increased media and educational reports about the event, the individual may have increasingly listened to such information and even considered, discussed, or responded to explanation regarding Earth's safety. Owing to the comet's distance from the Earth, its lack of mass protection afforded by Earth's atmosphere, and etc. Eventually, the individual likely began to value the argument that the comet would have little or no effect on life on Earth and ceased preaching the demise of the Earth. These are the level and definition. First is receiving. It refers to the student's willingness to attend to particular phenomena of stimuli. For example, the classroom activities, textbook, music, and etc. The verb that illustrate are ask, chooses, describe, follow, gives, hold, identifies, locates, names, points, to, select, sits, replies, and uses. The example is listening to discussions of controversial issues with an open mind. Second is responding. It referred to active participation on the part of student At this level, he or she not only attends to a particular phenomenon, but also reads to it in some way. The verbs are answer, assist, complies, confirms, discusses, greets, helps, labels, performs, practices, presents, reads, recites, reports, select, tells, and write. The example of this is participating in a team problem-solving activities. Questions new ideas, concepts, models, etc. in order to fully understand them. The third is valuing. Valuing is concerned with the worth of value a student attached to a particular. The illustrate verbs are completes, describe, differentiates. The example of valuing is accepting the idea that integrate curricula is a good way. The fourth is the organization. It is concentrated with bringing together different values, resolving conflicts between them, and beginning the building of an internally consistent value system. The illustrate verbs are adheres, alters, arrange, combines, compares, completes, defends, explains, generalize, identifies, integrates, modifies, orders, organize, prepares, relates, and synthesize. The example of organization are recognizing own abilities, limitation, and values, and developing realistic aspiration. Accept responsibility from one's behavior. It accepts responsibility from one's behavior. The fifth and lastly are characterization by a value or value set. The individual has a value system that has controlled his or her behavior for sufficiently long time for him or her to develop a characteristic or he or she's lifestyle. The illustrate verbs are acts, discriminate, displays, influence, listen, modifies, performs, practice, proposes, qualifies, questions, revises, serves, solves, uses, and verifies. The example of characterization by a value or value set is a person's lifestyle influences reactions to many different kinds of situation. Show self-reliance when working independently and uses an objective approach in problem solving.
Developing the affective domain. Certain positive values needs to be introduced to our students through the various academic subjects. For example, a mathematics teacher can be developed and still the value of self-discipline, of honesty and integrity in his lessons. It is well known that mathematics, apart from its utilitarian function, develops discipline, minds, and forces the students to think logically. A way to do this would be to study the lives of a great mathematicians whose works inspires the students. Affective learning competencies. Affective learning competencies are often stated in the form of instructional objectives. These are specific statements of learners' behavior or outcomes that is expected to be exhibited by students after completing a unit of instructions. Example of a unit instruction: a 6-week lesson on Filipino culture. a 1-week lesson on algebraic expression, a class period of subtracting and borrowing. Two types of instructional objectives. Number 1, behavioral objectives. Specifies an observable and measurable behavior to be exhibited, the conditions under which is to be exhibited, and the criterion for mastery. Expressive objective. Specifies an educational activity but does not specify the particular outcomes of the activity. Unfortunately, they are not always well written and do not always fit a particular class of style. Instructional objectives often have to be formulated by classroom teachers to fit their individual classrooms. For example, by Friday, the students will be able to recite the names of the months in order. Instructional objectives are specific, measurable, short, term observable students' behaviors. Objectives are the foundation upon which you can build lessons and assessment that you can prove meet your overall course of lessons. The purpose of objectives is to ensure that learning is focused clearly enough that both students and teachers know what is going on, and so learning can be objectively measured.
Good day everyone. My report is all about focal concepts in affective domain. Focal concepts in affective domain. Attitude. The word attitude from Latin aptus is defined within the framework of social psychology as a subjective or mental preparation for action. Attitudes are defined as a mental predisposition to act that is expressed by evaluating a particular entity with some degree of favor or disfavor. Okay, we discuss about the four components of attitude. Okay, the four components of attitude. First, the cognitions. Cognitions are our beliefs, theories, expectations, cause and effect beliefs, perception relative to the focal point, and statement of beliefs and expectations which vary from one individual to the next. And the second is the affect. Refers to the feelings with respect to the focal object, fear, liking, anger. Third, the behavioral intentions. It is the refers to our goals, aspirations, and our expected responses to the attitude object. And the last is the evaluation, often considered component of attitudes. It consists of the imputation of some degree of goodness or badness to an attitude object. Okay, those are the four components of attitude. Okay, those are the four components of attitude. And we discussed all about the way we study the attitudes. Attitude can influence the way we act and think in the social communities we belong. They can function as frameworks and references for forming conclusions and interpreting or acting for against an individual. Individuals, a concept or an idea. Next, the predisposition and attitude. Predisposition and attitude. Predisposition is an inclination beforehand to interpret statements in a particular way, while attitude is a complex mental state involving beliefs, feelings, values, and disposition to act in certain ways. Next, the motivation. It is a reason or a set of a reason for engaging in particular behavior. The reason include basic needs or an object, goal, state of being or ideal that is desirable. Motivation and desire represent the very foundation learning. If students don't want to learn, there will be no learning. If they feel unable to learn, there will be no learning. Desire and motivation are not academic achievement characteristics, they are affective characteristics.
The theory of human motivation asserts that we each have a set of the basic needs and must be met, including biological and psychological safety, belongingness and love, self-esteem and self-actualization. Abraham Maslow, Hierarchy of Human Needs Theory. There are the several theories of motivation that has been the proposed one of the human theories is the Maslow Hierarchy of Needs Theory. Maslow Hierarchy Theory is a theory of human motivation that was proposed by Abraham Maslow. Effective assessment, self-actualization, personal growth and fulfillment, esteem need, achievement, status, responsibility, and reputation, belongingness and love needs, family, affection, relationship, work, group, etc. Safety needs, protection, security, order, law, limits, stability, etc. Biological and sociological needs, basic life needs, air, foods, drinks, shelter, warmth, sex, sleep, and etc. Effective assessments. Needs are arranged in order of importance from basic to complex. Second, needs have wants and desires which influence behavior. Only unsatisfied needs can influence behavior. Satisfied needs cannot. Third, the person advances to have next level of needs only after the lower needs and least meaningfully satisfied. Fourth, the progress up the hierarchy, the more individuality, humans, and psychological health and person will show. First, were the two-factor theory. It is sometimes called motivators hygiene theory. Motivators challenging work recognition responsibility which give positive satisfaction. Hygiene factors, status, job security, salary, and fringe benefits do not motivate if present, but if absent will result in demotivation. Clayton Aldifer's Earth Theory, Acceptance, Relatedness, and Growth. First, this is theory posits that there are the three groups or core needs: extents, relatedness, and growth, hence and label Earth theory. Second, the extenses group is concerned with the providing our basic materials extensions requirements. The third, the second group of needs are those of the relatedness and the desire we have for the maintaining importance interpersonal relationship. Fourth, this social and status desire require to interaction with the others if they are to be satisfied, and they origin and with the Maslow social needs and the external component of the Maslow STEM classification. Motivation in education can have several effects on how students learn and their behavior towards subject matter. First, it can direct behavior towards particular goals. Second, lead to increased efforts and energy, increased initiation of and persistence and activities. Third, enhance cognitive processing. Fourth, determine what is consequence are reinforcing. Fifth, lead to improved performance.
My topic is about two kinds of motivation, self-efficacy, self-esteem versus self-efficacy, and self-report and reading skills. The two kinds of motivations is intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation occurs when people are internally motivated to do something because it either brings them pleasures, they think it is important, or they feel that what they are learning is morally significant. So, in this motivation, the person who do an activities, they fulfill their beliefs or expectations. They enjoy and have a personal satisfaction. So, intrinsic motivation, which comes from a standards compelled to do something because of factors external to him or her, money or good grades. Ah, in this motivation, you can do something in order to gain an external reward. Example of this is you study hard because you want to get a high grades to be a dance lister. Self-efficacy theory of motivation. Self-efficacy is an impression that one is capable of performing in a certain manner or attaining certain grades. It is believed that one has the capabilities to execute the courses of actions required to manage prospective situations. It is also a perceived capabilities for learning or performing actions at designated levels. Self-efficacy is a behavior or performance motivation. The source of self-efficacy is own experience, vicarious experience, verbal persuasion, and emotional arousal. The effect of self-efficacy is choice, approach or avoid, effort and persistence, thinking and decision making, emotional reaction. Self-esteem versus self-efficacy. Self-esteem relates to a person's sense of self-worth, while self-efficacy relates to person's perceptions of their ability to reach a goal. Self-esteem, it is a realistic respect for your ability to achieve or strive in life. The belief that one has value and self-worth. Self-efficacy is on how you feel about your ability to function in different situations. The belief that one has the capabilities to initiate or sustain a desired behavior. Development of assessment tools and affective domain. Self-report. This is the most common measurement tools in the affective domain. It is essentially requires an individual to provide an account of his attitude or feelings toward a concept or idea or people. It is also called a written reflection. Self-report is any method which involves asking a participants about their feelings, attitude, belief, or so on. Example of this is, I am easygoing. So, you need to answer or choose the answer among strongly disagree, somewhat disagree, no option, somewhat agree, or strongly agree. Rating skills. It refers to a set of categories designed to elicit information about the quantitative attribute in social science. In these skills, it allows teachers to indicate the degree or frequency of the behavior, skills, and strategies displayed by the learner. So, it is also used by a teacher to record the observation, and the students can use it as a self-assessment tools.
So now let's proceed to semantic differential scales or SD scales. It tries to assess an individual's reaction to specific words, ideas, or concepts in terms of ratings on bipolar scales defined with contrasting adjectives at each end. We have example here, good and bad. So 0 to 3. So 3 here is equivalent to extreme. Extreme good, extreme bad. The same with 2. Quit. And 0. Neutral. Okay, next, and a number of basic considerations are involved in SD methodology. So we have 4. A. Bipolar adjectives are a simple, economical means for obtaining data on people's reactions. B. Ratings on bipolar adjective scales tend to be correlated, and 3 basic dimensions of response account for most of the covariations in ratings. C. Some adjective scales are almost pure measures of the EPA or EPA dimensions. Good or good to bad evaluation, powerful to powerless potency, and fast to slow activity. D. EPA or EPA measurements are appropriate when one is interested in an effective domain responses. Okay, next. Thurston scale. Thurston is considered the father of attitude measurement and addressed the issue of how favorable an individual is with regard to a given issue. So, he developed an attitude continuum to determine the position of favorability on the issue. Okay, next. We have here example. Attitude towards black people in America. So, directions. Put a check mark in the blank if you agree with the item. So, we have five example. One is black should be considered the lowest class of human beings. Okay, put a check if you agree. 2. Blacks and whites must be kept apart in all social affairs where they might be taken as equals. 3. I am not interested in how blacks rate socially. 4. A refusal to accept blacks is not based on any fact of nature, but on a prejudice which should be overcome. So 5. I believe that blacks deserve the same social privileges as whites. Okay, so that's all. Thank you.
So now let's proceed to Likert skills. Likert skills in 1932, Renses Likert developed the method of summative ratings or Likert skills, which is widely used. This requires an individual to think on a box to report whether by strongly agree, undecided, disagree, or strongly disagree. In response to large number of items concerning attitude, object of, or STEM rules. Likert skills is derived as follows. Letter A. Pick individual items to include. Choose individual items that you know correlate highly with the total scores across items. Letter B. Choose how to skills each items or construct labels for each skills value to represent interpretation to be assigned to the number. Letter C. Ask your target's audience to mark each items. And letter D. Derive targets scores by adding the values that targets identifies on each item. For examples, direction. Indicate the extent to which you agree or disagree with each statement by circling the appropriate letter to right of each statement. For Likert skills is we have advantage and disadvantage. For advantage of Likert skills is we have they are quick and economical
to administer in scores. They are easily adaptable, the most attitude measurement situation. They provide direct and reliable assessment of attitude when scales are well constructed. They lead themselves well to items analysis procedures. These are the advantage Likert skills. For disadvantage of Likert skills is we have results are easily picked where individuals want to present a false impression of their attitudes. Intervals between points to the skills do not represent equal change in attitude for all individuals. Internal consistency of the skills may be difficult to achieve, and good attitude statements take time to construct. These are the disadvantage of Likert skills.
Hi everyone, this is the continuation of the development of assessment tools. So we have two other commonly used attitude measure. So we have first the 2-point scale. The respondent must choose between two options, yes to agree or no to disagree. For example, here, circle yes or no to indicate whether you agree with this statement. So we have number 1, I prefer volleyball to badminton. So it's either yes or no. So we will circle the yes because I like volleyball than badminton. Next is when I teach, I will use 2-point scale. It's either yes or no. So it's up to you. So next we have when I teach, I will give affective assessment and attention to. So it's either yes or no. So the other one is bipolar adjective scale. By circling on the 7 points in the scale, respondents indicates the degree to which they feel the adjective represent their attitude. For example here, circle one of the numbers between each pair of adjectives to best indicate how closely one of the adjectives describe your attitude about a say. So we have here good, unpleasant, and positive. So we will going to circle the number here on how good the a say and how unpleasant. So we have good 5, unpleasant we have 3, and positive we have 4. So the other tools that we use in affective assessment is checklist. Checklist is the most common and perhaps the easiest instrument in the affective domain. There are steps in constructing a checklist. So first, we need to enumerate all the attributes and characteristics you wish to observe. Second, arrange these attributes as a shopping list of characteristics. Third, we have to ask students to mark those attributes which are present and to leave blank those which are not. So we have here an example. Number 1, the student is effectively uses eye contact. So we will ask them then yes or no. We will check yes. So number 2, we have the student dresses appropriately. Yes or no. Next is the student is clearly defines the topic. So we have yes. And lastly, we have the Gottman scale. So Gottman scale is also used in attitude measurement. So Gottman scale is a series of statements which represent a gradient of agreement to a concept is represented to the respondent. So we have an example here. Number 1, abortion should be legal whenever a woman wishes one. So there is an gradient of disagreement. So next is Abortion should be legal if the doctors recommend it. So, that will be all. Thanks.